let's go back to the COVID side of things. I think there were three types of agents that were addressed that kind of curveball. The agents that were operating on a week-to-week basis, like they were just barely breaking in, barely getting by. Like every app paid a bill, and if it wasn't, they were not paying it. There were the agents that... All right, welcome to another episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. I don't know when you're going to see this video. You may see it in March, April, May. We got so much content that comes out on a regular scheduled basis. We just keep recording it. They just keep publishing it. And eventually you just keep watching it. If you're watching us right now, do me a favor before you get any kind of free information out of Nick. Like the video. Like the stuff that he tells you makes me money. It obviously makes you money. So like the video. He would appreciate that. Yeah, if you're going to listen to more than just this 36 seconds, subscribe to the channel. And if you're just listening and you're not subjected to having to look at us, follow the podcast as well. We equally appreciate that. Nick, it's Friday afternoon, not a typical time for you, but a busy day for us as usual. And today we're talking about the biggest curveballs you've ever been thrown. How's that sound?
It sounds fun. I, as always, have not prepared for this even a little bit, and I have no idea what we're going to be talking about. So it'll be an interesting time to see how this goes forward.
Yeah, I actually had an idea, and I told Nick, I have an idea. We're going to do this. And
I thought it was a great idea
for that. And then I changed his mind, or my mind, as I was walking up to my desk this afternoon.
One of the biggest curveballs I've ever been thrown.
There you go. See, let's start off simple. I think some agents, people, adults, think to themselves when something bad happens to them, because bad things happen, that they're the only person in this industry such a thing could have ever happened to. So maybe dispel the myth that bad things happen to everybody.
I mean, yeah, bad things do happen to everybody. I mean, it's not a unique thing. So here's a crazy thing that happened to me, and this isn't a Medicare thing, and I know nominally this is sort of a Medicare-focused show, but some of the weirder things that have happened to me actually have happened in the final expense side of things. Medicare stuff is just kind of sort of normal. I had a person who had a doctor, who she went to go see the doctor, and the doctor, for whatever reason, refused to bill her PPO plan. I mean, that's going to happen sometimes. It's weird. It is sort of a curveball, but that's kind of like the extent to what you're going to get curveball wise in the Medicare industry. And that's pretty easy to deal with. For reference sake, in this particular case, the company that she was with reimburses. I had her fill out a form. She's been paid back for the copay that her doctor refused to waive. And now she's fine. So really super not a big deal. So I've had weird stuff happen to me in the life insurance side, especially because I tend to deal on life insurance. I tend to deal with final expense type life insurance people, which are weird prospects to begin with. Let's be fair.
People.
You're intentionally going after a lower income demographic that's got some weirdness happening. So I had 2 years into the business, maybe 3 years. Not super long, like long enough to like know a little bit what I was doing, but not like super long. I had a phone call that came into me from an insurance company for a policy that had been in force for like 3 or 4 months, and said, "Hey, Nick, we've gotten a report that we are taking money out of somebody's account who is not the person who is listed as the insured."
That's weird.
And I said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "This is a person who doesn't know the person who's insured. Why are we taking money out of their bank account?" I don't know. I collected a voided check. I supplied them with the information that I had. I sent stuff out. It looks like somewhere along the way, I do not believe it was me, but somebody. In fact, well, I know it wasn't me. But somebody somewhere along the line switched 2 numbers on the ACH when they were entering the bank account information. And so somebody entirely unrelated to my client had been paying the premium, which is not great, but like kind of not the end of the world. Yeah. Problem came in like a week after I got this phone call. My client got into a car crash and died. And should have had several $1,000 life insurance policy that they should have been paying for. And so that was a fun experience.
But then they didn't?
Well, at the end of the day, the insurance company did actually pay that claim, even though they had technically not been paid anything by the insured and
But they
had
were
to
paid
refund
money.
100% of the money to the person who they had taken money out of the bank account erroneously. But like I said, it was proved pretty definitively that I wasn't the one that screwed that up, and so I don't know between my client's beneficiary and the insurance company, something got worked out, but that claim paid.
Wow.
Which is a rather remarkable thing.
I want to unpack curveballs because that was a really good curveball in insurance,
Yeah,
but from the insurance agent perspective too. Because I think some insurance agents think to themselves, the reason I'm not successful is because I have these things going wrong in my life, but they don't realize that everybody has things go wrong in their life as well. And it
sure.
shouldn't inhibit your ability to at least survive for a period of time. You know,
Yeah.
are there things that have gone wrong without getting too personal that put a curveball into your business, but you navigated through personally to be able to remain in the business?
I mean, yeah, sure. Gosh, all sorts of stuff. I remember the first time that a lead vendor that I was working with stopped getting returns on my leads. I mean, and this has happened multiple times now. This is just what happens with lead vendors. At some
Oh,
point,
yeah.
they stop working. But it freaked me out. Right, the very first time I'd been dropping leads regularly with this person every single week for like 18 months, and I'd gotten good returns. I was dropping per thousand. I was getting like a 2.5% return, sometimes a 2.75% return. This was a long time ago at this point, right? You know, like those are
2.1%.
not like impossible numbers now. But and then one day, like the return came back, and like I got nothing at all that week, and I was like, okay, well, you know, one bad week, not a big deal. And then the next week, I got like 3 leads, and then the week after that, I got like 5 leads, and then the week after that, I got like 2 leads.
2.
And I think my returns dropped from a little over 2.5 to about 0.5% in the course of like 6 months. And that was scary, and definitely a curveball. And you need to be able. The thing is, you know, I was prepared to navigate it. I had all of my old B leads. I'd been doing it for a while. I was dropping leads myself, so I owned all of my leads. I could go call all of the people that I'd never contacted in the past. I could go knock on doors. I don't. Yeah, it was a while ago, but I don't believe my production suffered tremendously, although I was very stressed out by it. And then eventually, you know, I moved on from that lead vendor, who I think is still a great lead vendor, but for my area, that lead was just burnt. And moved on from that lead vendor, set up with a different lead vendor, got back into a regular run of things, was on a per thousand, not a per thousand, was on a cost per lead drop instead of a per thousand drop. And, you know, when I started, it was like $26 a lead. Those leads have then gotten more expensive.
Same piece of paper. Same
Yeah.
person.
Gosh, I remember one of the very first things that I did on social media anything at all. David Duford had me on his show, on his YouTube show, to talk about it. And we were talking about how I had this set price lead that was $27 a lead. And he said, you know, do you think direct mail leads are ever going to die? Like, when does it get to be too expensive? And I said, you know, I remember vividly, and you can probably find this. I think I said leads are cheap. You know, this is the thing. You know, if you have a street level contract, leads are cheap. You can make a ton of money buying direct mail leads. If they were $50 a lead, they would still be cheap. And I'm pretty sure $50 a lead is the number that I used. I'm not paying $50 a lead for my leads, but I definitely know people who are paying $50
Some people
a lead.
are.
Yeah.
Let me unpack that question again. Years into the future, you're smarter than me in some aspects of the business. I meant that in a nice way. When is it too expensive? When does it become so expensive that it now becomes a problem? A curveball that requires legitimate deviation.
So on the Medicare side, I'm going to try and keep it Medicare. On the Medicare side, we talk about like cost per acquisition, right? That's a metric that gets used a lot on the Medicare side. And I think a lot of people who don't do Medicare full time probably don't pay attention to cost per acquisition.
Nope.
Um, but because Medicare pays so poorly in upfront commission, it's actually a really important metric for Medicare. And the idea with Medicare, like for me personally, I'm happy if I can keep my cost per acquisition between $100 and $150 per new client. I think you can get away with going all the way up to $300 per client. And I know that there are agents out there that would be perfectly happy if they had a $300 CPA. For me, that would not make me happy. I would not love that. I think that is higher than I would want to spend, but there are plenty of people who would gladly spend $300 CPA. I think you need to calculate things like your own time into your CPA also, but that gets we're getting a little bit into the weeds there.
Yeah. I remember when COVID was a thing early on during COVID, and we're like over the phone, Facebook leads. We're on
Sure.
a Meets, Zoom. I don't know even
Yeah.
know at the time with Bearcat, thinking,
Yeah.
show us, sir, how does Facebook work? And then I realized or learned very quickly at that moment, it wasn't about the cost per lead. It was how much I had to spend to acquire a client.
Yep.
And then that had a lot to do with my daily lead spend, because I knew if I talked to enough people right in a business, you get the point. It's actually a very interesting point that is never ever mentioned in final expense MLM land.
Well, and the thing is, like, if your cost per acquisition on a final expense policy is is less than a quarter of what your first year commission is going to be, you're probably in pretty good shape, right? Like if your average first year commission is $700, I don't know if that's what it is, but like let's say it's let's say it's $1,000. Let's make it easy. Let's make the math simple for me because I'm not a math person. Let's say your average first year commission is $1,000 per policy sold. Well, you know what? If you're spending less than $250 per person to acquire that, yeah, you're probably pretty okay. You know, so if you're going to be selling, 6 policies a week, right? You know, $1,500, $1,500 in lead spend per week. If you're making 1,000 per person, yeah, you're still. I'd be okay with that, right? You'd be okay with that. You know, if your first year commission is $6,000, but you're going to spend $1,500 to get the 6,000, so you're really only netting 4,500, and maybe, you know, on advance you're only seeing like 4,000. Like I think most people can live on 4,000 a week, right? Like that's a reasonable amount. $1,500 a week in leads is really freaking high, and
We're
like
getting there,
very few people are spending that much money right now.
but we're getting there.
But it might go that direction. But that's still pretty good. If your average commission is lower, then you need to spend less. You know.
Well, let's take the curveballs from business back into a different direction, because I think that's a lot of really valuable information in 10 minutes that you should already have subscribed, liked, and watched the video for receiving at no cost.
Yeah, man.
Let's go back to the COVID side of things. I think there were 3 types of agents that were addressed that kind of curveball. The agents that were operating on a week-to-week basis, like they were just barely breaking in, barely getting by. Like every app paid a bill, and if it wasn't, they were not paying it. There were the agents that, I mean, we're just kind of inherently lazy and looking for a reason, but we're kind of talented and made it anyway. And then there were the agents like ourselves that spent less than they made, worked consistently, had a diversified book of people to talk to. And all 3 of these type of people faced that situation very differently. I think what we did when we were pitched that curveball is we said to ourselves, all right, this is how much my monthly budget is. This is how much I have in savings. If I don't make another penny, I have until this date before we actually have a problem.
Yeah.
Do you think, though, when people are confronted with these type of curveballs, they really take a moment to logic their way out of it, or do they emotion their way into a bigger problem?
I mean, they should, right? And I think if given enough time, I think given enough time, people will. Um, but people don't always have enough time. And I think most people, it's normal. You're going to knee jerk a panic response, fight or flight response.
Yeah.
And either choice, fight or flight, uh, not maybe the right choice. Either way, you don't really want to necessarily fight or flee. You want to like kind
Take a
of
deep breath.
yeah, to kind of relax, calm down, assess the situation. Very few things are so emergent that you can't kind of take a step back and figure things out from a rational perspective. It is important to to look at the big picture. It's important to look at the big picture and kind of get a sense of the whole surroundings before you knee jerk jump.
Yeah, I was pretty angry about some stuff a couple years ago, and then I was getting decisive with it. And I looked at my income statements and I said to myself, I'm angry about these things, but I'm making twice as amount of money I was making elsewhere.
Right.
And if I'm doing this for money and not for fun, I mean, I have fun doing it, but this is a business. Let's be real with ourselves.
Yeah.
That's a pretty decisive observation to be made. Well, you're making this and this is double. Shut up. Figure it out. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty stable evidence right there, you know?
Yeah. You have to have priorities. You have to decide what the purpose is. I love it when people on Facebook say things like, I'm in this to help people. Great. I love that you have that attitude. I love it that we get to help people. I mean, because we do. I genuinely believe that we do, both on the
Yeah.
Medicare side, on the life insurance side. I feel like we genuinely make a difference. Just showing up to some of these people's houses, especially if you're working with low income seniors, just being there, having a person that knows them, that knows that they care about them and treats them kindly. And like, there's a huge amount of good that we are doing every single day. And I think that's amazing. It's not why I do this business. I could do that for free. Like I could volunteer at a charity, and there are plenty of charities that offer that kind of companionship and financial advising. And like I could be a ship counselor. I could volunteer at the Medicaid center. There's all sorts of things that you can do to make a difference in the lives of low income seniors that will not pay you, and that would actually make probably a greater impact. If that's what
Yeah.
you're in this for, go do one of those things. I do this because I get paid. I love that I can help people. But if you were not going to be paying me, I would not be doing this anymore. I would be doing something else because I have bills to pay and mouths to feed.
Yeah. I had that same comment brought to my shoulders once. I said, I stopped being a paramedic not because I didn't like it, not because I didn't feel like it was my calling, not because I wasn't good at it, probably better than most. Is that the money was awful. Like awful. Like
Yeah.
60, 70 hours a week. You figured out how much you could make before it wasn't worth it in the taxes. And I was making, I don't know, 2,200 at the most. And then I could afford with $2,200 to coupon my way through the grocery store to maybe go to Applebee's and be away 70 hours a week. I'm like, what is even the point? Like it
Right.
feels good and I feel called to do it, but no. Like this is a business decision, and I feel the cool part about what we do is it also allows us to fuel our passion, to
Yeah.
put money into our passion, to volunteer as whatever you want. But this gives you the opportunity to buy time and print money where you wouldn't be able to do it on the other side of that conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, and like what you were doing, like, I mean, you were a genuine first responder, like doing amazing work. And it's awful that like you're not getting paid. Like paramedics, nurses, all like teachers, like so many of these people who are like very valuable, doing really great work, like it's a calling type of jobs, like get paid terribly.
Yeah.
That's not what this is, right? Like this is not a calling. Like this is a vocation.
Yeah.
um and again, it's not a thing most people can do. It's not a thing most people want to do. And I realize more and more the longer I'm in this and the more I talk to people who are in sales that don't do what we do, how many people would never do what we do, like just never. um
Yeah.
i get I get
I
paid very well to do what I do, and I Side effect, I kind of like it. I
Yeah,
like the people I work with.
I enjoy doing it, but let's not get this mixed up. I do it for the results that it brings.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I have an agency of people? I don't do it to override people. I like working with people, and I
Yeah.
think I'm really good at this. And if you're good at something, you should teach someone how to do it. That's it. The
Yeah.
rest is a result of that. I
Yeah.
like having a community and a culture and a conversation and a morning call and people you can talk to and people you can bounce ideas off of. But I don't do it because of the making the money off of them so I can sit here and watch Netflix. I don't have time to do that as a result.
Yeah, right. Oh, golly. Yeah, no, like having a team of agents, that's my hobby, right? That's what I do
It's a passion
because yeah,
project.
that's what I do because it's fun and I will tell you, does not pay as well as people think it does. Um but like I really like it. I love working with the agents that I work with. I was doing it for free for a long time before I realized, like, if I want to actually help agents the way that I can help agents, I actually need to get paid. Otherwise, I can't spend enough time on it. But I mean, we do this for free.
Yeah,
Like,
this is a hobby to me. Like,
yeah,
yes, I honestly think it does help the people that watch it, but it's purely for fun. It's
yeah,
purely to just put stuff out there to counteract the fact that there's so much awful shit out there. Like
yeah,
stuff being taught by people that aren't doing the thing. Why are you listening to that?
yeah.
Stuff that is angled at people making 7 and 8 figures. Most of us aren't making that. Like the
No,
let's get
it's
back.
there's so much bad crap out there.
Yeah,
There's
let's
so
get
much
back.
bad crap out there.
The root question, the curveballs that we face that people can learn to overcome. I hear agents say to me things all the time that I love them, but I want to like knock my head up against the wall hearing it. Car problems. I'm out of the field today because I have car problems. Nick, for the last 6 years, I've refused to own less than 3 cars because I don't want to ever have a car problem to keep me from making money. Now, they're not all
Interesting idea.
nice cars. Some of them are
Right.
nice cars. Some of them I take on the beach. They're great cars. Some of them are just car I can get in and go to the hood. Curveballs where agents say to you, I can't go work today because my car doesn't work. How do you manage that curveball?
Man, you should have been better prepared. Like, I don't know. I rent a car. Like, renting a car for a day is going to cost you like not very much money, and you will make it all back if you go out and run appointments. Most car companies, well, not most, but there are several car rental companies that will then drive the rental car to you. You rent it over the phone, they'll drop it off at your house. Call Enterprise, they'll pick you up. Like, I don't know, man. Like, go freaking work. Like, don't not work. I've gotten flat tires in the field. Change your
Culture
flat
grind.
tire. Go
Yeah.
go to work. I make sure my car is maintenanced. It gets an oil change, and like, I don't know, like that sort of stuff makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I do understand from the perspective of if you are starting out and you are extremely broke, because most of us are if you're starting in this industry,
So be it.
you may not have the luxury of being able to rent a car. You may not have the luxury of being able to, I guess, get your oil changed on a regular basis. Like, I don't know, like learn how to change your car's own oil in that case, or make backup arrangements, have somebody else who can loan you a car. Like, you're not going to get out of that situation unless you have the ability to get out of your house and go to work. Learn how to do phone sales. I don't know. Like, you should have a plan B. You should have the ability to go make money. The worst thing in the world, if you are doing this, is not being able to see people. My nightmare is having a full day of appointments booked and I can't get to them for some reason. Like, I hate that.
Yeah. Let me share this story as we get close to wrapping up. I was 2016, 17, somewhere around there. I got pulled over in the hood driving in Camden, New Jersey. God bless, great state. Not really, I'm kidding. And allegedly, this traffic violation I was supposed to appear in court for. I didn't read that. I was too busy knocking doors. I did not
Right.
read that. Probably threw it out. I was supposed to appear in court and I didn't. And then the next time I was pulled over, I didn't have an active driver's license. Driver's license was suspended because I didn't appear for that. And you know what happened? That I take the next 2 or 3 weeks off the field because of this? No, I got people to drive me. I did reverse ride alongs at that point in time because I still had stuff I needed to do
Yeah.
until the next point where I could get that situation addressed. There's some pretty crazy curveballs that come our way, but logic your way out of it. Take a deep breath. Don't operate from a point of emotion and then figure it out.
Get creative. You gotta. So much of this job is being able to think kind of laterally and think creatively. The training that I did with my Medicare agents today was, I brought a guest onto our training who has nothing to do with Medicare. He never sells Medicare. He doesn't do any Medicare sales. But we brought him on not to teach specifically Medicare, but to teach some of the processes he uses in non-Medicare sales so that we can then as a group kind of think, hey, what are the good pieces that he's using, that he's utilizing in his system that we're not thinking about? That's because we're not exposed to this style of sales. What are the pieces from his system that we can take and kind of break it apart, take a look at it like we did during the training today, and then put it back together in a way that makes sense for Medicare? um, you've got to have that ability to kind of think creatively and figure out how to assemble wins, really. Yeah.
Even small ones. I think
Yeah.
sometimes just one little win at a time will get you there, or finding a smaller problem to fix, knowing just sometimes you're not going to be able to get that thing fixed today, but maybe tomorrow you will be able to, and just small little wins win your way from one day to the next.
A little bit here and
Um,
there.
we got 4 minutes to go, and I'm going to go with a hot take. I have no idea what it's going to be,
Okay.
but what do you think is the most hot topic issue in Medicare right now? Let's take that in a different direction. Not your hot take on something I'm hot about, but the biggest hot button issue in Medicare to help us wrap up.
Oh, I think it it is either the pending sword of Damocles hanging over all of our heads of what's going to come down with this new CMS final rule that's probably going to come out in a couple of months, usually around June. This one might come out a little bit sooner. Um, there's not a lot to talk about there, but there's a lot of people being very worried about it. The time to be worried is past. Go out and do what you got to do until the rules change, and then when the rules change, adjust. You're going to have 6 months lead time before you have to adjust. You'll have time. Don't freak out when the time comes. The other thing is call centers. Are they here to stay, or are they a tool of the devil? And they're not going away. There's always people saying that the changes that CMS is making, the changes that are coming down the pipeline, are coming in an attempt to put the call centers out of business. And while it is true that Medicare CMS would like to eliminate the overseas call centers that are acting illegally, they mostly also want to get rid of any agent that does not sell Medicare 100% of the time. And they find those agents to be as big a threat as the overseas call centers. Frankly, because there's a lot of people who are doing things not the right way, and that they shouldn't, doing them in ways that they shouldn't be. And last year's final rule from CMS was directly targeted towards face-to-face agents who are primarily final expense agents and not actually directed at call centers, which is why they put all sorts of call center exceptions into the rule. Call centers are tough. It's really important you get people on do not call lists. It's really important that you train your clients to contact the FCC if they're being contacted illegally. And it's very important that you stay on top of your book of business. The days of Medicare being the stickiest business you could sell in are gone unless you are proactive about maintaining that book. If you're proactive about it, it's actually very easy to keep your book together. But if you're not
Yeah.
proactive about it, you're going to lose a ton of business.
I saved 3 this week just by being proactive on it with time that would have been spent doing less unprofitable activities. Just
Yeah.
quick look. Oh, that happened. Can I fix it? Looked like I could fix it. I think the short answer to that is look for ways to solve a problem, not worry your way into one. If you look for a problem, you're going to find one. If you need something to get worried about, you're going to get worried about it. But if you look
Yeah.
for a solution to that business problem, eh, you might end up with that more often than not.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Sounds good.
everyone being here today. Like, comment, and subscribe if you made it this far. We appreciate it if you did, because the longer you watch, the more YouTube likes it. The more you do these things down here, the more they appreciate it. And the more we do, the more you do, the more we'll do as well.
Yeah. Commenting legitimately, like for the algorithm, the more people who comment anything, even if you just say like, hi guys, the more people will see this video. It's ridiculous. Commenting in the comments does more for YouTube's algorithm than anything you can possibly do. So to that end, if you watched the whole thing, what do you think of the new color of the wall behind me? Huh? You like it? You hate it? Should I
Leave
put
a
more
comment.
decorations up? So
Nick's turned blue. What do you feel? Comment about it, even if you dislike it. Hey, YouTube loves anger. The whole
yeah,
algorithm loves anger. Maybe you really hate the color blue, and watching it right now makes you want to throw things at his wall. Comment about it. We'd appreciate it too. Nick, I appreciate you taking the time late today to film with me, and we'll see you next week.